Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Pitchside Podcast channel. I'm your host, the HOD of the PSB. Of course, like, share, comment on this video, subscribe to the channel, most importantly, enable notifications to receive all the updates from these match recaps and other content on the channel. Follow us on social media, PSB on Twitter, Pitchside Pod on Instagram, and you can listen to the podcast tomorrow on Spotify or Google Podcast or any other platform. And we're coming after a straight after the game between Chelsea and Wolves in the Premier League, the game that ended in a goalless draw, and the first game, of course, for Thomas Tuchel. And certainly it was an interesting game, not in terms of, playing or enjoyment, because it wasn't that enjoyable, to be fair. It was more really of a, slugfest to get through at certain points, but definitely, tactically at least, it was interesting for Chelsea. It was definitely one of those draws that you would watch to understand how the tactics of a certain manager would work through in the match. Tuchel start with a 4-3-3, typical, I think, continuing sort of the legacy of his predecessor, employing Havertz as a left winger this time almost, and Ziyech, of course, in the midfield behind Hudson-Odoi on that side, on the right hand side, Jorginho as a centre midfielder, Kovacic as well, and it didn't work. It simply didn't work for around 60 to 65 minutes. It certainly didn't work. Chelsea were playing, I think, too much sideways, playing too much wide, trying to put crosses into the box to Giroud, but it didn't work. And Wolves, I mentioned quite a lot on this channel that they're not exactly the team that gives you a lot of space, that doesn't give you a lot of room to manipulate or to move out of shape. They cannot do that. Wolves, they don't move out of shape, they don't get pulled out, you don't find spaces behind them very often, Wolves. And there were no incisive runs really from Chelsea players aside from Havertz. Ziyech was playing too wide. He wasn't running inside the box or anything like that to support, despite the fact that he's playing in the midfield in the game. Havertz was the one making a couple of runs, but mostly he was stuck in for Chilwell to make his forward runs. There wasn't exactly much room for manoeuvre for Chelsea in the first half, and in the second half as well, they continued to play with the same sort of stilted nature, few chances, even fewer penetration from the players, and no real intent about the game. And then, of course, in the halfway through the second half, it took him 65 minutes in his Chelsea tenure to start playing the 3-5-2. It wasn't exactly 3-5-2 as much as a 3-4-2-1, clearly, because with the substitutions he made, he introduced Pulisic for Chilwell, he introduced Abraham for Giroud, and he started playing with something similar to what Atalanta uses these days, a 3-4-2-1 with, two, kind of players behind the striker that, open up and move wide and move in. But Mount and Havertz, of course, Mount was also introduced later on in the in the second half for Ziyech, didn't do that job pretty much of pulling out wide, but he gave, I think, Chelsea the kind of incisive nature that they lack in their play, and gave him the kind of direct nature that they were lacking in their play. Of course, unfortunately for Wolves, the fact that they don't have a proper striker, still lacking Raul Jimenez, even the introduction of Willian Jose didn't help a lot, to be fair, in terms of catching Chelsea off guard, despite the fact that they could have done that with a little bit of urgency, a little bit of intent in their game. They couldn't do that. The Wolves players, Adama Traore and Neto, as usual, too wide, and Pedence was just bruised to death in the game, on his own, pretty much circled in the midfield, with little support from the Wolves players. And overall, this was a first game where Tuchel is obviously testing the waters here, seeing what could work, throwing things at the wall and seeing what should stick. That was the drill from this game. There's a first for everything, and Tuchel's first was decent. Not exactly 3 points, but also not exactly a bad performance. still a little bit of efficiency would be needed in the next couple of weeks. Certainly a game games of epic magnitude wait for him in the next couple of weeks, so he will need some serious revision probably for what he's doing, trying to fix some kinks here and there before the next fixtures. And certainly, the playing with a 3-5-2 now with this kind of Chelsea side and the loads of defensive of attacking options that are available is quite the risk, but maybe it will be worth the reward in the next few games. That's it for this game. I was your boy, the HOD of the PSP. Like, share, comment on this video, subscribe to the channel, enable notifications to receive all the updates, follow us on social media. I'm at SidePSP on Twitter, SidePod on Instagram. You can listen to the podcast on Spotify, Google Podcasts, or any other platform. And until next time, I will see you soon. Goodbye.